Hi, it's Dwyer. DwyerVIP.com, GamblersAdvisory.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. For legal reasons, let me state that this pick's being offered for entertainment purposes only. This is a free pick. It is a dangerous pick, not for the faint of heart. Let's talk about the divisional game in the AFC. The Baltimore Ravens going to Denver to play the Denver Broncos. Right? The line right now is Baltimore +9 or +9.5, depending on which casino you're fortunate enough to visit. Now, let's just say that next Saturday, when the game is played, is less than 7 days from the time when an older Baltimore team will have last played, right? And so you need to be aware of that. Keep in mind, Denver is high altitude. Guys like Ray Lewis have one less day to rest, recuperate, get ready for this game. Right? That's something you need to consider. Let's also talk about the weather before we dive into other logistics. Next Saturday should be a great day. It should be sunny. According to the weather forecast, and I'm making this video Sunday night, and so it's several days out. You want to watch the weather as we get closer to the day of the game. It's supposed to be a sunny day with only a 20% chance of rain. More importantly, the wind should be 10 miles per hour or less, right? So it shouldn't impact passing. Now, the starting place for analyzing this game has to be the December 16th, 2012 game between both of these teams in Baltimore. Now, as you may recall, in this game that took place less than a month ago, the Denver Broncos jumped out to a huge lead. At one point, they were up 31-3, and they cruised through to a 34-17 victory over the Baltimore Ravens. But, and I say but, if you look deeply into the box score, you're going to see that Peyton Manning only passed for 204 yards in the game, right? In fact, his net passing yards, when you factor in the 2 sacks that he incurred that lost him 17 yards, right? His net passing was only 187 yards. Right? Believe it or not, Peyton Manning was actually outpassed by Joe Flacco, who threw for 254 yards, but he was sacked 3 times. Right? That leaves him with a net of 222 yards passing. More importantly, if you subtract out the 125 yards that his tight end Dennis Pitta got off of predominantly short passes, right? 7 completions to Pitta for 125 yards. What you have is a Raven attack that, quite frankly, only had about 100 receiving yards by people other than the tight end. Let's go a little bit deeper. The rushing attacks. If you're a Denver Bronco fan, then you know that Willis McGahee has been out since week 11. It's a problem because you know your team for the season has averaged less than 4 yards a carry. In fact, they've averaged 3.8 yards a carry the last 3 games, right? 4.1 at home, but 3.8 the last 3 games. Now, it might surprise some people to learn that the secret to the first game between these two, right, played less than a month ago, were the 163 rushing yards in that game that Denver got. By contrast, believe it or not, the Baltimore Ravens only rushed for 56 yards in that game. Also, if you break out where the passes were completed, you're going to see that this game featured very few bombs. In fact, let me see if I can pull up the grid. Peyton Manning hit Eric Decker deep for 51 yards. Right? That's the only bomb that Peyton Manning was able to complete for more than 30 yards in the entire game. Right? Let me also point out, too, that Joe Flacco wasn't much better. In other words, the DBs held in the game. And you should know that intuitively because, of course, Champ Bailey, Denver's cover corner, is going to the Pro Bowl. And, of course, in the secondary, Baltimore has safety Ed Reed. In other words, neither team had a lot of success passing the ball deep. Right? Most of the completions were short completions. Right? Eric Decker, for example, caught 4 balls to the short left side of the field, 3 balls to the short right side of the field. Right? When he tried to go deep over the middle, he was targeted 3 times. He didn't catch any passes. Right? Demaryius Thomas was targeted deep left once. He didn't make the catch. He was targeted deep right twice. He didn't make the catch. What this tells me, and it's a dangerous play, but what this tells me is that the most enticing betting proposition, and it might not last, you might need to hop on this early in the week, is the under 45.5 points. Some shops apparently have an over-under right now of 46. I like the under simply because it looks like Von Miller and company can keep Baltimore from running the football. Right? This is a different defense than the Indianapolis Colts defense that the Ravens just played. Right? It looks like the Ravens can be stopped from running the football. It looks like Champ Bailey is going to take away half of the field deep. And quite frankly, just looking at the numbers, Joe Flacco was not that successful the first time they played in hitting his wide receivers. Likewise, Peyton Manning wasn't successful in passing for big yardage against the Raven defense, right? Again, he had less than 200 net passing yards the first go-round. If this game becomes a game of short passes to tight ends and a lot of running of the football, then I'll expect it to be a low-scoring game. I consider the prior game, in which 51 points were scored, to be an aberration because that game included an interception returned for a touchdown of over 90 yards. Right? That game had very odd wrinkles. Keep in mind, in football, it doesn't take much to go from 51 points scored in a regular season game to then have the teams in the postseason put up a touchdown less than that. Right? Also, most gamblers don't seem to realize that winning an over-under play returns as much as winning a point spread winner. Typically, you're talking about odds of minus 110, right? In other words, bet 110 to win 100, or minus 115 for both point spread winners and over-unders. Now, let me say, in a low-scoring game, the 9 points is a lot. Right? Even if you think Denver is better, and Denver on paper appears to have the better defense, right? Even if you think Denver is better, and of course Denver is playing at home, and they have better offensive numbers in some metrics, like points scored, right? Understand that the 9 points or 9.5 points are a lot of points if the two teams collectively put up less than 45.5 points. So the way I see this game is that it will be low scoring. I'm expecting really the kind of game that the Ravens just played against Indianapolis score-wise, right? Somewhere in that range where one team might have in the 20s, the other team has less than 20. When you add the two together, it comes to less than 45.5, right? I like the under in that game. That's my free play. Make a note that as of Sunday night, the over-under is 45.5 if the line adjusts, right? If the sharp money comes in and this over-under drops to 43, 42, then all bets are off. I'm only predicting an over-under at 45.5. If you can somehow find a way to get that to 46, I would recommend that you do so. I just don't see a lot of points. Finally, let me just point out something that really does need to be mentioned. We forget that Peyton Manning did not play in 2011. Did you know that in 2010, in the playoffs, Peyton Manning lost his only playoff game and only threw for 225 passing yards? The source for this data is PeytonManning18.com, right? A pro Peyton Manning site. If you go to that site, you're going to find out that if you exclude Super Bowls in which Peyton Manning is 1-1 in, you'll see that Peyton Manning, postseason, has 8 wins and 9 losses, right? Let me just quickly take you through the years from 2007 to now. In 2007, Peyton Manning won and done in the postseason. 2008, Peyton Manning won and done in the postseason. 2009, Peyton Manning 2-0 in the postseason, excluding the Super Bowl, right? 2010, Peyton Manning won and done in the postseason. Don't be blinded by regular season stats, right? Just understand that it's not unusual for Peyton Manning to struggle a bit in the postseason. Understand that Peyton Manning's postseason quarterback rating is below 90, right? And so whoever you think is going to win the game, don't be surprised if it's low scoring. Don't be surprised if Peyton Manning has a hard time hitting Demaryius Thomas with passes, which is what happened the first time these two teams played, right? Also, don't lose sight of the fact that both of these teams knew they were going to make the playoffs. And so that December game likely featured some vanilla defenses. Compare and contrast Green Bay's game against Minnesota week 17 and Green Bay's game against Minnesota in the wild card round of the playoffs, right? Sometimes teams tighten up the screws for the postseason, right? Don't assume because the score in the regular season game was 34-17 that you're going to have a team get over 30 in this game. I like the under. That's my free play. Also understand too, gambling is very risky, right? This bet may well lose. I'm just making a value call, aware of the fact that there is a lot of risk involved. If the game does become a shootout, then you would lose it all if it goes over the 45.5. So be aware of the risk. Gambling is for grown-ups, right? We're going to let the chips fall where they may. But based on these numbers, the fact that most of Flacco's completed passes, his lead receiver was his tight end, that Baltimore only rushed for 56 yards the first time around, that Baltimore's defense seems to be able to defense Demaryius Thomas deep, contained Eric Decker the first time around, given that the Broncos, who aren't that good a rushing team, rushed for over 160 yards the first go-round, right? And understand, when you're rushing the football, that takes time off the clock, right? I'm guessing that this game is going to be a rough and tumble affair, not a high-scoring shootout. I like the under in this one. For premium picks, visit us at DwyerVIP.com. Thanks for stopping by.